Let me ask you about this seeming intention to form a coalition that takes on China. The UK and the US seem to be part of this. Do you think you'll get others to join that mission?
I think we have to. I think for so long, the world has hoped that China would mature into a global responsible citizen, that it was communist in name only. And clearly that hasn't been the case. They've taken advantage perhaps of the limitations of our world order to further their own power base. And we turn a blind eye to their human rights abuses and their democratic deficit. But clearly, now what we're seeing in Hong Kong, with also the suppression of the news of the pandemic, people are looking at China very, very differently indeed and saying, is it now time to stand up to this country that is indebting countries, so many countries across the world, in its debt trap diplomacy, through its infrastructure programs, its technological deals as well. And this challenges the West and what we stand for. But ultimately, we've done nothing about it. So is this the moment that the United States, Britain, and indeed other countries starts to be a little bit more robust in what we believe in and what we stand up for?
Are there privacy concerns when it comes to, issues beyond Huawei? I mean, for example, TikTok is a digital service used by probably millions of UK teens and tweens, and it's possible, or there have been accusations, I should say, allegations, that that data isn't necessarily secure and possibly shared with the Chinese state. Are you concerned about TikTok?
I certainly am, but what I don't want to see is like individual tactical chess moves of us responding one by one to what China does, whether it be their nuclear infrastructure involvement here in the UK or Huawei or TikTok. We need a full foreign policy reset. We need to understand that we are heading towards a bipolar world. I'll go so far as to say that we're probably already in a Cold War, but we're in denial. There is a geopolitical threat that challenges the West and what we do, the way we do our business. And we need to stand up and offer a graceful solution to take us away from this clash that we're now experiencing. We're going to see Russia and China move more together. We're going to see the West at the moment where we're partly to blame because we've been so, I think, weak and divisive. We've not been collectively more forthright in what we stand for. There's been division right across the world, compounded because of the pandemic, countries retreating from global exposure and so forth. So this is the moment to really stand up and say the Westphalian rules, the Bretton Woods organizations that served us well after the Second World War, they need to be reset.
OK, so those commitments may be important, Tobias, and essentially easy to say. But what does that mean for Chinese money wanting to find its way into the UK? I'm thinking in particular about the nuclear industry. Hinkley C, is that now at risk? And when we look at Sizewell and Bradwell, do we look to put limits on Chinese involvement there as well?
And that is the fundamental question. How do we manage a country that we've all become so reliant because of its growing economy? I recall David Cameron, George Osborne going out to China, wooing China. And this is the problem, is that we've almost become fearful of China because its economic power. But in fact, that's its Achilles heel. It's not abiding by WTO rules. It's pushing its own agenda. It exploits the fact that other countries aren't united together in standing up to it. So we need to be more determined and more forthright to say, these are our rules and you must abide by them. It is wrong to spy on your own people with this technology. It is wrong to entrap people into debt in the way you've done so. And if there are consequences economically to our trade, then so be it.
And so what does that mean, though, Tobias, in terms of, does that mean no Chinese money in UK nuclear power?
It doesn't. It means that you're more than welcome to invest in the West, but under the agreed international rules. What we can't have is a situation whereby we choose not to include Huawei, for example, and then China threatens funding to Manchester University. That shows that this isn't just an independent commercial operation, but an extension of the state. And the fact that Huawei is so big in the first place, that's because it's received $60 billion over the last 10 years, we can't compete with that in the West. That's why China is able to advance in the way that it's done so. But it's more to do with the geopolitical authoritarian ideology that it is promoting, which challenges the West. And that's why I would say that this is another era of Cold War that we need to wake up to. Currently, we continue to be in denial. We're still hoping that China is going to join the international community and be more like us. It is not, and we need to recognize that.
Are you concerned, though, about provocation here? Because we have a developing story right now in Houston where, firefighters apparently accused the Chinese of burning things or said papers were being burned outside in open containers. Then, according to the Chinese Foreign Ministry, the U.S. demanded that the Chinese leave their consulate there. Now the Chinese have closed the consulate. Again, this is a developing story. It's happening right now. But we're seeing consequences of these headlines crossing the Bloomberg. For example, the UN is erasing gains in markets. And these things can pick up and get out of control very quickly. Are you concerned about that kind of provocation?
I am. I mean, you mentioned the UN as well. I mean, this is another, I'm afraid, angle of the Chinese approach is actually to neutralize the very international architecture that holds countries to account. We were trying to, do some good in Syria to provide some aid to the refugees there, and it was vetoed by China. And WTO as well, that the trade organization is unable to do its work because the Chinese are able to stop anything happening. So this is, again, another angle of Chinese agenda here that we need to address. There's a difficult conversation that the world needs to have. And at the moment, as I say, most people are still in denial.